everybody. I'm Dan Cooper. Welcome to the Sharpen podcast, brought to you by Acumen, an exclusive community of CEOs and business owners to help you grow your top line, optimize your bottom line, and enrich your storyline. On this episode, we're going to talk about the next internet, AI. We've all messed around with ChatGPT, Perplexity, maybe even Claude, but now what? We'll dig into strategic and practical ways to move your leadership forward, integrating AI into your business. And today, my guest is John Scott Dixon. He's the CEO of Aidan Taylor Marketing and the author of Mastery of AI course that he's recently put out. He's in Phoenix, which is a lot warmer than where I'm currently, and it's the newest city that we're building the Acumen community in. Welcome, John Scott.
Hey, thanks. Good to be here, Dan.
So I said a bunch of stuff. What do you do, and who do you do it for?
Well, so I've run a marketing agency for just over 21 years, which is hard for me to believe. And, it's morphed over the years. I mean, just the internet's one thing, but this new AI stuff is just a lot really, really fast. So like everybody else, we're just, grappling with it and figuring out how to make sense of it and use it the best we can and figure out how to collaborate.
So who's your target market wise for Aidan Taylor? And then how does the Mastery of AI course fit into all this?
Yeah. So I can do that. So Aidan Taylor Marketing really provides services best for companies that are between, say, 1.5 million to 60 million, somewhere in that space. Seems to be a sweet spot for us, has for the whole time. In terms of how Mastery of AI fits in, we have been trying to figure out how to upskill our people. And all of the people, we work with people. And so the clients we have, we're noticing that they're also struggling with how to upskill their people. And that really just means, are they using it in any way that's productive for them, in a way that's not frightening them away from it, so that they're leaning into it, not away from it.
Yeah, right on. So I am currently in the middle of Mastery of AI. And I think one of the biggest things that I've taken from your course is the pace of innovation is staggering.
Yeah.
So what's your take of the industry right now and that pace?
So one of the things I make a mention of a lot is, when I went through the first tech shift with the internet, the pace was staggering as well. And we had lots and lots of companies coming out and promising this and that. And we found ourselves in the beginning kind of lost in that and trying to master something that we didn't know if it was a good thing for us or not. And then we started to focus on our skills and what really made us excel in what we were trying to accomplish, which was we built the third e-commerce website in the world. So there were some things we needed to do. We needed to understand user experience, and we need to understand things like shopping carts and how those fit together and all that kind of stuff. And so I would say that as you move into this space, it's really about not getting lost or caught up too much in any particular technology, but more thinking about, hey, am I learning the right things to do with AI? And so I break that down in the course.
Definitely. All right. So, how should CEOs and business owners think about AI as a part of their business strategy?
Yeah.
Let's start at the top.
So I think a lot of people are trying to find something like a tool that's going to solve a particular problem. And I think it might be softer things than that. So for instance, I speak a little bit about Pi and about advanced voice mode. Those are two different technologies. So Pi and then using ChatGPT, the voice side, to begin learning how to interact with AI. And interacting can be things like role playing. So in one of the courses, I take you through the scenario where I'm asking Pi to operate like a Android user. And I'm going to try to sell it an iPhone 16 Pro Max. And, when I set off to do that, I thought I'd be able to overwhelm it with thoughts of iPhones because I've used them forever. And it just crushed me. I lost the arguments. It was not compelled to want to move to an iPhone. And, so I realized, hey, I could spend a lot of time, if I were a iPhone salesman, I could use this as a way to hone my craft and to get really, really good until that So I'm always beating it. And you could do that for anything. So since that point, I've asked it to be less polite, more aggressive. And it still has a kind voice, but it is very aggressive, and it is fairly rude in the way it goes about counteracting my arguments, which is right on.
Okay. So I love your heart of experimentation. So you have a different mindset, I think, especially practical, tactical, or strategic CEO. So what kind of shifts in mindset do you need in order to start digging into this AI business thing?
Well, I think you also have to just say, how am I going to adapt this technology to do interesting things that I've always done, but just do it better? So, give you another example.
Yeah.
There's one called Google Notebook LM, right? Which everybody should know. And you get it if you have a Google Workspace account. It's free. If not, you have to have the paid Google account. But basically, we're in this world where we're given so much data to consume. And like the other day, there was a Lex Friedman podcast. Not the other day, it's probably been a month or so ago. And it was with Dario Amodei, who's the CEO of Anthropic. Okay. Anthropic makes Claude. It was 5 hours and 15 minutes long. So I opened up Google Notebook LM and I ingested that podcast because you can go right from YouTube right into it. And it took it maybe 4 minutes to ingest the 5 hours and 15 minutes. Then I asked it for an audio overview, but I wanted to have it look at it through the lens of an entrepreneur who lives in Arizona.
Mm.
So I gave it that requirement and it built a 22-minute podcast, kind of an audio overview. So then I left the house, took my dog for a walk, listened to it, and there were things that were occurring to me that were really resonating with me. I came back, went back into Notebook LM, and I can chat with the content. So I started asking it a little bit more detail and getting larger summaries back. And those summaries have citations. So each citation I could click on and actually go to the source and read the transcript. So I didn't lose the nuance of what was being said around the material that I was most interested in without having to listen for 5 hours and 15 minutes.
It's so definitely a time benefit. All right, so take those two ideas
Yeah.
and put them together like this, how to think and maybe a mindset shift. Um, so I'm a CEO. I make a bunch of decisions every day. How do I help make better decisions? And how much trust do you have today?
That's a weird one at the end, Dan, but we'll get to it. So here's how I would do it. So if I'm making decisions, I'm going to try to gather every time I make a decision as a CEO, I try to gather all the information that's essential for that decision. And the problem is I just have my head and my head can feel overwhelmed, minute to minute. I would take all of these items and put them into a custom GPT. So I'd load it up. Now trust comes in here because I believe when Sam Altman with OpenAI says we're not going to train on data that you put into a custom GPT, I'm taking them at their word. And they have written some legal text around that. So I've got that and their word. But I am choosing to trust so that I can move forward. Then when I build a custom GPT, one of the things that's happened in the last couple of weeks is the ability to use voice mode, like we talked about a second ago. So I can actually have all of this data uploaded. And then if I'm trying to make a decision, say around a contract or a choice of technology or whatever it is, I can now walk around the kitchen, in circles and ask the GPT questions that are coming up and then respond to it and learn. And so there's something different from chatting. When I'm chatting, I'm almost getting an instant response. When I have to listen to ChatGPT read its thoughts back to me, it's the part where when you and I are having a conversation and we have, we're getting those we're lighting off of each other and hitchhiking, so to speak. I get to do that with ChatGPT. So I'm then asking it another question and getting further and getting to a place where I can make that decision.
You talked about upskilling. So let's
Yep.
start with the person themselves, and then let's go to your employees. So what skills do I need to hone? Yeah, when the internet came out, everybody had to figure out how to Google something. So what are the skills that I need to help make the most of the tech?
Yeah. So there are really six of them in my mind. And the first is interaction, which we talked about, already.
Yeah.
Then next one we talked about, which is consume. How are you going to, there's more out there than ever before, and you're going to need to get better at it because everybody's getting better at it, right? So you got to be able to consume. So that's using something like a notebook LM to ingest. Then you really need to have a bit of empathy for the tech that you're using. There's so many new applications being made available using AI. If you just ask it, if you ask them, hey, what are you good for and where are you challenged? It will tell you. And then really listen to that. Don't get frustrated with the technology because it's not giving you an answer that it's never designed to be able to give you. Right. So I think that's a big part of it. Then you've got to get good at training. And so we've all talked about it in terms of prompting, but work on honing your prompt skills. And so in that course, I don't think you've gotten to it yet. Maybe you have, but there's an XML, just some basic XML is easy. It's just tags like context or tags like, hey, this is an example. One of the things, Dan, that when people train it's because we get lazy. I'm going to give you a quick example. My son, when he was younger, was going through a little bit of speech therapy stuff, and they were working with a blend, and it was a CH blend. They showed him a pitcher for water, but on the pitcher was a picture of a tiger. And so for that particular blend, that card, it just struck me that he's more interested in the tiger than he is in the pitcher, and is missing the point. Don't do that when you're training, because training a GPT is like training a child in many ways. If you give it stuff that doesn't make sense to it, it'll try to make sense of it and put it into, and that's where you get the hallucination stuff. So if you're going to have an example that's going to go down a path, you need to put it into a tag that says, hey, this is an example, so that it knows, oh, okay, you're using this as a way for me to understand. So training, I think, is a big aspect of what we need to do. Um, you need to be able to express. So we talk about things like, can you express things in a table? So you need to get used to being able to do all that kind of stuff. But you also need to be able to express as you. And one of the things that's happening that I think is important is getting into our authenticity as people. So you've known me well enough, Dan, that you know what you're hearing from me right now is authentic. This is how I talk. And if you
Yes.
read an email from me that was super formal, and I didn't use these, super, like that's one of my favorite words, but if that's not in there, it's not going to feel like me. So one of the things I do in that course is I help people go through a series of prompts that get them to talk about their lives or some aspect of life in a different way, so that I can kind of flesh out the vocabulary they tend to use, and then help it interpolate where it might employ a word that would sound like me naturally. So
Mm.
that's kind of a cool process, so that when you go to something to have it right, it can write like you, right out of the gate. And then you're making minimal adjustments to sound like you authentically. So I think that's the expression aspect of it. And then finally is adaptability. You got to be able to adapt to the technology. So that's like applying a couple of technologies to get to another level on something. So let me think of a good example. When I gave you the example of ingesting something and getting an audio file, and then taking that audio file that's now come out of something like a uh, notebook LM, being able to apply that in ChatGPT as another reference piece of material, you're layering technologies on top of each other to be able to get someplace different. That's not a great example, but maybe we'll think of another one as we go.
Good. All right. So that's the list, and those are fun. I don't know if those are words that people think about from a skill expression, and yet I think you're right. As I have started playing around. All right. So what about your people I'm the strategic side. Somebody has to get practical and tactical at some point. How do you upskill and train your people?
Yeah. So the first one is to figure out, first of all, what skills would they like to give up to, not skills, let's not say skill, let's tasks. How about tasks? What tasks are they doing that are not, they're good at, but they don't enjoy doing? And so I think a big chunk of everybody's life ought to, or not life, but the exercise ought to be, how do I find those things that I'm doing every day or most every day that I really wish I didn't have to do? So it could be a report that's due to the boss every Monday and it takes 3 hours to prep it and get it ready. And you hate it on Sunday, you're hating it. And you know you got to do it every Monday. But then you figure out that AI could actually really help you get that done. So you work through the process of delivering that report utilizing AI, and maybe you have to put in a few inputs, but now it turns out you can do that in 6 minutes and you could do it every day. So the boss, instead of getting a once a week report, gets a report every day, and it only takes you a few minutes a day to knock it out and you feel like a rock star, and you're free to now go do stuff that you really are good at, that you love doing, that you're great at. And that's a better place for all of us to live.
Yeah, it reminds me, as you say that, of the delegate to
That's
elevate
exactly it.
graph, right? It's the
Yep.
what am I either good at that I shouldn't do or that I hate and I shouldn't do.
Yeah.
Start there. That's a great place
Yeah.
to make that happen.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Okay. Uh, how else should we think about our team?
So depends on what your team does. And, I would say most people get caught up in just thinking about what GPT initially on its face is good at, and that's writing. But early on, we talked about the ability to role play and think and make decisions with a thinking. So when I role play with somebody else, I have to assume that they're in an optimal space in their life, in their mind today, that they're able to role play at the highest level with me consistently, and that they have perfect access to information. And that's just not true. But when you start doing it with a custom GPT, you could load, if you know that you have a big presentation next week and you know your primary competitor or competitors, you can load into a GPT all the data about your primary competitors, those ones that you anticipate, into a custom GPT. You can tell it, I am now going to, I'm going to present, and share your presentation with it. You can actually record your presentation and upload the transcript with the materials and have it take a look at it and then shoot holes in your argument based on what it knows about the competition. And it's not limited to what you upload. It can also access the internet and bring that in. So, that's a place where we can just get better, whether we're trying to sell internally, right? Or we've got a real customer externally, because we're all selling. And so I think improving ourselves in that manner is a great way to get people going.
Interesting. The most awkward part of training for a manager is the role play. So to set up a GPT to help you do it or record it and listen to it and go back and forth is a super interesting way to get around something that's always been challenging or awkward because we're both faking it and we're doing it poorly. So
Well, yes, and plus they rolled out 3.0, oh 03 mini last week on ChatGPT, and really all that means is it's a better reasoner. It has better memory. So when you're doing these kinds of things, it can keep track. So you can do an entire role play session, or you can do multiples, and then you can say, how did I do in the first time I did it versus the second? And you can get critiques. And it can point out where maybe you did it better the first time here, but better the second time here, and then you try it again, and it can keep critiquing you. It can work with you and then critique you. So, all that stuff is pretty powerful. And you don't, also the embarrassment factor, you can do this, you can do it anytime you want. You can do it driving home, right? You can do it walking the dog. You can do it anywhere you want, and you can really get great so that when you hit that presentation, you're good to go. And by the way, it will never fatigue. It never gets tired of playing with you until you say, I'm done. You will
Yeah.
tap. Won't.
You will tap out first. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I haven't been far enough in the course to ask smarter questions than the ones I've asked you. What should I have asked you that people need to know now?
Let's see. I think it's about the blueprint,
Mm,
once we get to the place where we say, hey, these are the tasks that you've identified, what you need to get rid of. How do we go action that blueprint? What's that going to look like? And the answer on that ends up being individualized. So it depends on the task, right? And which technology we would then go source to figure out how to solve the problem for you and to bring it to life. But that's probably the next big challenge is actually doing it, right? So example would be, we have a client that they have blueprints and they're artists. And then when they draw, you know how like you watch architects, they get really good at doing a certain symbol. So these guys are good at it. It's not exactly the same every time, but it's pretty close. So what we had to do is we had to teach the GPT we had to give it multiple examples of the same uh, kind of little, in this case, it was doors. So you have doors and plants, little plants. And
okay.
so each little plant meant something. And you would load that up and tell it, here's this type of plant. It's a small plant of this variety. Here's a medium-sized plant of this variety. And then you give it a bunch of examples. Once you do that, and then you ask it to count, it's way better than humans at counting. But if you don't give it the reference material, it will make it up, and it's not very good. So, just doing stuff like that, having patience with it, trial and error, building it until you get the desired result that's repetitive. Then
And
you're
then
going.
scale.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
then scale.
every single time it's something like that. You got to figure out, okay, what do I have and how do I need to teach it?
So the other thing when you said blueprint that popped in my head is today, if I go to Microsoft Office, I know how to use Word and when I need PowerPoint, and I can use this suite of products and go back and forth and copy from Excel and like I can use this suite of things.
Yeah.
How do you figure out the blueprint of what tools to use back and forth? Because there's not quite a integrated suite yet. So we're experimenting. What's your mental process of figuring out the right flow?
Yeah. So part of what I'm doing with the course is the next level of the course gets into everybody having a team GPT account. So I'm purchasing that for everybody, and then they're interacting with me in a place where I can go look under the hood. So when I talk to you about the picture with the tiger on it, if I
Yeah,
open up what you've done and you're trying to train it, and I see that you've put an example without calling it an example in there, then I can see right away, this is why we're getting some weirdness in the result. So let's strip that out. So I might work with you on that. I might say to you, this would be better if you uploaded a set of tables. And here's how I would do it as a PDF. And here's an example. So that's the plan is every single one of these is going to be a process of thinking, what's the best way to help it understand information? And then bringing it to life. Sometimes you have to go and build the table. You can't ask it to build it. You got to go build it and then say, here's what I'm
here's
thinking.
how.
So
Yeah.
that it has the right information in the right way to be able to interpret it in an efficient way. And then you just got to look at your results and make changes until you get it optimized. So it could be
It,
something like that. It could be a brand new technology. So it might be you tell me I am getting overwhelmed. Like this is a true story for us. We were getting overwhelmed by Google and Facebook calling us to help us with advertising because we run a lot of advertising budgets. And it's crazy. It's like 10 to 15 of those a day. So what we did is we used Dialzara, which is Dialzara. It's a um, it's a AI technology for answering the phone, and basically answers the phone and greets you. Its name is Graham, and Graham will welcome you to Aidan Taylor, And then if you ask it a question in the way that Google or Meta tend to ask questions, it will quickly understand you're trying to reach us because you want to talk to us about advertising, and it won't let you through. It will ask you any information, but it will not bother us. And that's been a huge time saver in our lives because we were getting inundated with that. And now it never happens.
That and that's on your delegate task. You don't want to do that. Um, the
No,
the It's funny, the patience seems to be one of the big themes coming out of this, and because you really are training another employee
you are.
in some way, shape, or form. So the patience up front gives you all the scalability on the back, patience for yourself, but also for the technology. And I do foresee somewhere where the GPT will increase the value of your company if it's trained correctly and it knows your systems and processes. And I wonder how that will start to add value inside of just enterprise. Like when you sell the company and you'd be like, yes, and we have 4 GPTs that are customized to us and they're 7 years old and that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah,
what's
that's an
your take
interesting
there?
thought. That's a really interesting thought. I think that's definitely possible. It's when I think about Timothy Ferriss and when he did 4 Hour Work Week at the early part of this millennia, this century, I was thinking, how do we add VAs, virtual assistants, to everybody in corporate America where they could, but this is before Gino Wickman and the delegate to elevate stuff.
Yep.
How do we get the stuff that we hate doing off our plate, the toil of work? How do we get that out of here so we can work on the stuff that's great? And we're getting there. We're entering this agentic age, and I don't know what that's going to look like. There's some big things that happened in the last week. OpenAI released Operator in about a week ago. And I don't know if you've seen Operator, but
Uh-huh.
Operator is its computer use, but it uses the computer through a new browser, and that browser is called Operator. So it doesn't use Chrome, it doesn't use Microsoft Explorer, what it uses
Yeah.
Operator, and not everything works inside of Operator. So that's a message to people in my field that are saying, wow, we're building websites that may not work for Operator. And what if people really like using an agent to do things like, here's my shopping list. Can you get that all taken care of and shipped to me next Friday? And that's it. That's the end of my input. And then it does all the work. So it's going to Amazon or wherever it needs to go through its browser. But what if it gets to my shop, but my shop doesn't work well with Operator? And it just stops and says, oh, I guess I'll have to source this somewhere else. So it opens
Oh,
up a new world in terms of that. And by the way, what's it looking for? Do you remember that in the 70s, we used to have you'd go down an aisle and be white cans of generics. And you had to read every one of them because it was just beans or spaghetti or what, but is that all a computer needs? Just QR codes, beep, 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 until it finds what it needs. It's a whole different paradigm for marketers. It's going to be interesting.
yeah, that is an understatement. And it's fun to be alive during 2 or 3 of these, right? Internet,
Yeah,
iPhone, and now AI. Like,
yeah,
wow. Start with the question. So we're a Plain Glass organization. It's people, it's performance, it's profit, it's excellence, it's AI. And yet we have a stained glass heart. You're a stained glass heart guy. Jesus journey. We're all trying to live the best we can. So how does your faith and work manifest in your business?
yeah. So for me, it's Philippians 4:8, and that's where Paul in 62 AD is talking about the things that we ought to pay attention to. And it's funny because for me, the way I remember that is I say turn place in my head, and it's not perfect, but T is truth. Um, R is right. N is noble. P is pure. L is lovely. A is admirable. And then I always remember whatever is excellent, whatever is praiseworthy. Think of such things, right? So but turn place to me is how I've remembered it. But when you think about that, it's also the word repent. And so when I think about, because in business, you have opportunities to do things the right way and the wrong way. And I don't, wherever I identify something that I could do better, then I don't want to just say to Jesus, hey, I'm sorry I did it again. I don't want to do that because he doesn't want to hear that. He wants me to recognize it and then turn and go the other direction. And what I've found is those things that I named off, what's true, what's right, what's admirable, what's pure, lovely, noble, excellent, praiseworthy, all of that stuff. When I find that I look at those things, like if you keep them in your mind, so trying to do excellent work and really being proud of something you've done that's excellent and thinking about excellence doesn't leave a lot of room for things that I would need to repent to come in. And so I guess that's my standard for trying to look at the business, and what we're trying to accomplish is through what Paul had to say to me there. And the weird thing is I really wasn't in love with, as I was reading the New Testament for the first time, and I got kind of sick of reading just stuff from Paul over and, more from
Yes.
Paul. But there's a lot of power in Paul. And that's one that's really hit me.
He is a person that definitely has process and alliteration that allows you to do what you just did. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I appreciate you sharing.
Yep.
Okay. Man, hit a lot of things today. Upskilling. What do you need? What do you need for your team? Have patience. Empathy. You have to have empathy with your technology, which is hilarious. And then you need just so much patience inside you to do this thing because you are training another employee. Where can our listeners find more about you?
So I would have them go to, are you going to be able to put something down below? I'll just give you a URL because it's a long one, but they can just click on that and it's going to take them to the Mastery of AI course, and they can learn everything they want right there.
Yeah, if you've liked any of what you heard today, it is the deepest and most pervasive course I have seen on AI, and there is quite a lively community there as well. It is a good spot to be. All right. Well, if you're interested in becoming a member of Acumen, go to acumenimpact.com and click on the apply button. If you'd like to learn more, we got a bunch of great content and under the resources tab. John Scott, thank you for making the time, man, and unloading your brain into ours.
Awesome. Take care, Dan.
Thanks. Peace.